Hello guys, welcome back to PHPRad Front-End Development. This is Tuzik Official. Previously we talked about calculating fields and columns based on their values. And again I tried to explain that it's more of connecting two different columns from SQL. But in this tutorial we're going to look at how to make use of our post pages, which include the add page and the post page. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll open my PHPRad Studio. I just want to apologize at this point that I lost the ppm file we have been using, so I created a new one. It just houses two tables, the user and the records. Okay, so and in this tutorial or in this video, what we are going to focus is the page properties alone. Okay, we're not going to talk about these guys, but again, I've done a tutorial or a video on how to design forms, just to give you the initiation on how to design forms. Alright, so in case you want to go through, the link will be in the description below. There is a whole lot of things behind the add page. It's not just an add page that you can explain everything about it. It entails a lot, just like the list page, but we will definitely just talk about the highlights and what you can do with them. And again, I will try to explain how you can change this thing. Some people, when they click on it, it comes like a page model, but mine comes like a page. So how to change that thing, let's quickly talk about it. How to change it, you just go to this page list, then make sure that you remove the modal buttons and stuff. To do that, come over to this page list. This is the record, and this is the record. Move down over here where you have modal edit and modal view. You can just quickly toggle it off. Okay, make sure they are off. But when you change this thing, it's not going to change, it's not going to make any changes. I'll show you where these two things takes effect. So once these two things are off, the next thing you want to do is this button. Maybe your button is something like this, preload modal. And when it's on preload modal, it's going to look like this. Okay, the difference between preload modal and this one called adjust modal is that preload modal will kind of render the HTML content in a div class by default. Is already here. So when you click on it, it's going to trigger the div class that is already in the modal content class. But if it's in adjust, what adjust does is by default, when you open this page, the add page is not ready, it's not here until you click on this button. Then it's going to load it in this div class. They're a bit confusing, but it's all the same thing depending on choice. That's when you make your preferences. So moving forward to what we have for the day, I'm going to change this thing. You may decide to switch to whatever you want, but we are not talking about design, page design or design component here. What we are talking or what we are doing is the page properties, the add page properties. And whenever we are talking about the add page properties, it's the same thing with what we have in the list page properties, just that they will take some different action, but it's still the same thing. The setups are the same. Okay, the first thing is the title. The second thing is the submit button. By default is like something like this, submit. I don't want to have this at this thing, so I will go to navigation. So by default is like this. Even there is an icon by the side, this icon. So I don't like to have that icon. That's why I removed it, and I'm going to show you how to remove it. Well, let's talk about it. How to remove it? I like to do the setting on the specific pages because not all pages I want to remove the icon. So you can come over here and say I've added this star script, CSS script or CSS snippet that says we are targeting the button tag. and inside the button tag we are targeting an I tag. The reason why I target an I tag is because PHP icon packs are putting in an I tags. Look at this guy, is an I tag. It started with an I. Okay, so I start with the I tag. I say inside this button class, locate I tag. Okay, and the display of the I tag should be none. Therefore, don't display the I tag in the button. It's as simple as that. Just do it, the icon will just disappear. Alright, the next thing we are going to start with is the, let's take a look at them step by step. So we've talked about the submit. The next thing is the enable captcha validation. You can just set it to true. When you set it to true, this is what you get. Something that looks like this. It's not bad. I like it. It's more validating if that the person is not a robot. Okay, moving forward, we talk about these form masters and master field. There is some bugs with this thing. When PHPRad was releasing their update, I can remember that was update version 2.7.1. The master form was stable, but the version 2.7.3 it was unstable. But we decided to accept it like that, not completely. They will fix it, but we decided to accept it like this because this version is more stable than most of them. All right. So in future videos, I'm going to show you how to fix this thing, even without waiting or without getting an update from PHPRad themselves. So the next thing I will talk about is the form layout. So this form layout, I've set it to vertical, no label. You can just decide. By default is on horizontal, and the horizontal I mean is something like this. As you can see, they just labeled followed by the field, label followed by the field in horizontal form. That's from left to right. So you can set it to vertical form. You can set it to any of the format or layout you want. But depending on the application you are building, or depending what you are going to use the form for, that determines how you want it to look. Okay, don't just do the things because people are doing it. Rather do it because it's the best thing your app needs. So moving forward, we may like to talk about message after adding server-side validation. The message after adding is something like this. Let's test it, preview it. I want to disable this thing. I don't normally use it. So I'll type a name here. I will call this name Obi, and the sex is a male, and I will submit it. That's the message they are showing us. But in case you don't want it, you can quickly remove it from here. Everything just goes away. So moving on to the server-side validation, you prefer to toggle it on. Another thing is the redirect action. So by default, it's going to look like this. And what it does is, when you add something, after adding, it's going to send you to this page, which is the list page, and the list page is the index page of PHPRad. So you may think of, oh, okay, what if we remove it, therefore it's not going to redirect us again? It's not true, because this is PHP. When you are building PHP, there's always if statement. So PHPRad developers use the if statement to set and make sure that if this thing is empty, it will still redirect you to the index page. Alright, so the best way to disable it is actually to enabling the mother page to adjust, or you can set the redirection action to the main page it was. So which is something like this. So after adding, it's going to redirect us to the same add page we are. Alright. So you may like to choose something like this, which let me show you what it does. You will add this guy, girl, is a female, and you submit it. As you can see, it has maintained the edit. Oh wow, we set it to edit. It should be the view. But you see what happened? After submitting it, it just redirects us to the edit page of the record ID. So let's go back. Let's add someone else. Let's call this guy Lover. I'm not actually in love because of saying this thing that, you know, I just want something quick. So this Lover is a male. When we submit it, it redirects us to the add page, like I told you, as you can see here. So what if you wanted to redirect us to the view page of the record we added? So you can add this guy and say viewer, and this viewer is a female, and we submit it. Is now taking us to the view page of the record we added. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back and action after adding and action before adding. What are they talking about? Well, I'm going to explain that very soon. Just stick around. So mail after setting, mail action. Before you have this mail action working, even though it haven't worked for me by default, I always use custom. You just have to make sure that this mail setup is complete. I guess, I don't know, is it from my location or something? I don't know. If it has worked for you, please let me know. So you just come over to this send name, sender email, fill it. You can type whatever you want, or the name of your company or anything, and then the sender email, you can just set it there. You can just type, you can just type your email address and the STP, your server STP, your username. You know what to do with these guys. Just make sure you set everything up, and over here comes the message you are sending. You can enable it, make sure it's enabled to true, and you set it to OK. So the next thing is the load indicators. Of course, you can come over here and decide on the load indicators you want. You know, PHPRad, this thing was a feature that was in ViewRad. Yeah, that was ViewRad. PHP View, not actually PHP ViewRad, is PHP View. That feature, because it's more of JavaScript, sending information and getting information, posting information, it kind of takes a bit seconds. So because of that, they use this. But this is I just don't know how to explain it, but that's actually the function. So the final thing we are going to talk about before we move to actions is this guy, enable autocomplete. By default, this thing doesn't function because the values PHP are giving is the wrong one. They set the value to be true or false, which doesn't actually take effect because it is I think it's a bootstrap. I don't know, is it a HTML? I guess it's HTML5 features or bootstrap. It's HTML5 feature. When it is either off or it's not there. Is either off or on, or it's not there at all. When it is off, then let me show you. Let's refresh this guy. So as I'm typing something, as you can see the suggestions they are giving me. There are some web applications you build, you don't want to have this option. You just want the user to type just straightforward what they want. When it have to be with figures that are specific, you don't need to suggest anything. So how do you remove it? That is actually what this enable autocomplete field does. Some browsers doesn't even support it. Something like this web browser PHP is using, it doesn't even work here. I don't know if this web browser is using HTML5. You see, the thing is HTML5, not Bootstrap. Okay, so I don't know if it supports HTML5. It's a pity that the browser, this new browser, doesn't support HTML5. Whatever the case may be, I don't know why it doesn't support. Some of the features of HTML, this browser doesn't support it. I don't like that. So how to change it is, the only way I figured it out is to do this thing. Is to come over here, which is the field you want, and you just type this thing, autocomplete, make it false. By default, it's not there. I was the one who typed it like this. So let's reset. As you can see, this is the name. is not there. Okay, so you just type it there, which says autocomplete, and you set the value to be off. Once you do that, you preview it again in a browser. So let's refresh and let's click. As you can see, there is no more test suggestion again. So what if you don't want to do anything from here? You just want to do it. Is there any way you can do that? Yes, there's a way you can do that. And to do that, this is what you need. You need to select the field you want. Of course, you want to do it with the name field. Let me show you that I've taken it off, because you might be thinking it's still there. It's no more there. As you can see, the autocomplete tense has come again. So we are going to do this with JavaScript. I will code in jQuery. Okay, so we will select the ID, which says control, followed by the field name you want, which is the name. So we want to do what? We want to add an attribute, and the attribute we want to add is this attribute. Okay, and we want to set the value of that attribute to be off. All right, and that is a simple line code that you need. And you say okay, preview it again, come over to this guy, refresh this, and as you can see, it's now working for us. So before we call it a class, let's quickly talk about this action before and action after. What these two things do is basically the same thing, but when they are to do it is what makes them different. As the name implies, action after add will perform the kind of the task you give it when it has successfully posted your record. But action before add will post or will perform the action, or will perform the task or the event you have given it, or kind of command you have given it to perform. It will perform it before it posts the record. So if it failed to perform the action, therefore your record will not kind of update. Your record won't be posted. And again, if you want to access this record ID while you are posting or while you are executing some command, therefore it won't work for you on this side before, because before posting, this field doesn't exist. This is set to auto increment, and auto increment have to connect with SQL before the value will be set. So before posting your form, this wasn't there, so you can't access it. But if you use after, then you can access it. So I think this is basically the major difference. I'm sorry, I feel somehow. So let me give you an example. I'm going to create a record here. I'm going to create a record on the user. And this guy, I'm going to call it my name, which is thank God. So this guy will bear my name, and the ID will be 1 or 2. Let's make the ID to be 6, and we'll submit this guy. So as you can see, this is the PID, this is the name, and this is the primary key. All right. So now we want, when we add something on records, not users, when we add something on this table, we want it to perform another action in another table. Wow. So how do we do that? Well, that is the power of even this page event. Okay. So let's give an example. It's simple. Let's type what we want. Change. Thank God. When we submit it, let's go and view it. Well, nothing is happening because there is no command. Alright, so let's put the command and see how we are going to use it. I would like to do it after adding the record, but even if you do it here, it will still work. So after adding the record, I want to select this thing. In order to save time, there's no time of typing things. So I want to update. Remember that the record is already existing. So I want to update these users. So I want to update users. And I want to set the user PID. to be equal to something. Okay, we don't want to do any calculation. You can further do your calculation, but we are going to cover all in all when we are talking about page event. So we want to update PID with this thing, where the ID, this user ID is equal to what? You have to specify, else it's going to update all the users, which we may not like. So we are going to update it where the ID is equals to, I guess, 3. Yeah, I guess where the ID is equals to 3. Or you can even set your own dynamic field kind, so that it will be picking from the form kind of the connector, something that joins this table and this table. You can use that field to kind of link them. All right, so we want to set it to be this thing. Anything we'll type here, we want it to take whatever we type here and update to this user PID. So to do that, we can just simply do this. Remember, I have a single quote, and inside the single quote, I'm now doing my model data variable thing. So model data. Because I'm having a single quote outside, there's no need of typing another single quote inside. I'll just go straight and type the name of the field I want to use, which is the name. As you can see, we named it here. The name is actually name. Alright, so this is actually the code we need, and when we hit OK and preview, now let's kind of add something. New PID, female, and we'll submit it. Come over to this user. As you can see, it have updated it to new PID. What if you want to change it to hello world? So you can see it has come hello world. So once again, thank you for sticking around or staying with us, and in our next tutorial we are going to look at how to make use of the field. And again, before I call it a day, please, whatever any changes we do here is basically the same thing with this guy. They are all the same actions. All right, they perform the same thing. Even coming out the page field, as you can see, when you come here and when you come here, it doesn't change. Whether any changes you are making on edit page is reflecting on add page. And if you want to have a separate page that doesn't depend on each other, you can just come over here and over here with this icon plus and create a new page. You might be hearing me saying create a new page, name it this, no there. Is that this is the new page I'm talking about. Come over here, click on it, and type the name of the page you want and set it to either add, edit, or view. I would like to make it add. Hit add, or anyone you want it, then you hit add. Just click on add, it will add it for you. With that, just look at this. With that, we can have this as a separate page. It doesn't depend on any of this. It's on its own, and it can perform its own action separately. All right, so thank you guys for your support in all way around. In the next video, we're going to talk about this list page fields and their field properties, which is not list page, it's actually add page field and add page properties, which we are going to talk about it in the next video. Thank you so much. I'll catch you in the next one.